Hi, and welcome back to Coach Barnabas. I'm Corey, and this is episode 59 already. Can you believe that? And as you can see, I'm at one of my favorite spots that I just enjoy going to record these. Whenever I get the chance, I like to get outside, get out of the house. And so today's one of those beautiful days where I just can't think of anywhere a better setting and try to get out of the way so you can see the beautiful background. But I kind of want to start this off by just saying, I understand inspiration can come in unusual ways and from unusual places. And this episode is one of those examples. And let me just explain. I know I've said this before, but again, this is episode 59. So this little nugget, fun fact, if you missed it before, wouldn't blame you. No judgment. But my wife and I are true crime fans. And as such, now let me explain. We're not weirdos who enjoy, because these things, let's face it, most of them the storylines are about people who were tragically and murdered. And so that's obviously very sad and terrible. But there is something fascinating about all the moving parts behind the story that led to what happened, and then the investigation, and then trying to identify who did it, all that kind of stuff. My dad was a cop in San Francisco, so there's probably a certain element to my DNA that is drawn to this sort of thing. But we enjoy our true crime shows and things like that. So where am I going with this? In watching these shows, I find myself a lot of the time when it's revealed that, it was somebody known to the victim, somebody who had a relationship with them of some kind, and that went bad, or even if it wasn't necessarily bad, the murderer, that person had a very complicated life, and oftentimes by their own doing. And so they figure life is better off without this person in it for whatever reason, whether it's they had life insurance money and because they got themselves in some sort of financial difficulty, this person was more valuable to them dead than alive. Or maybe they got themselves into, somebody killed their spouse because they found this other relationship, and, this person being in the picture and having to share custody or go through a divorce or, whatever, they think their chances are better in trying to get away with murder than going through other means, including reconciliation. That's, but the point is this. I found myself just with this title going through my head. It's also the title of an old song, which is a beautiful song. I love it. And you may have heard of it, called Give Me the Simple Life. I think it was written in the 40s. Ella Fitzgerald performed it. You may have seen the movie Father of the Bride. And it's just a great song. And the theme of it is exactly kind of where I'm coming from. Is when I say give me the simple life, I'm not advocating for, or expecting a life that has no troubles. Understand that. It's not about that. It's just that sometimes we make life so complicated by our decisions. We make life so complicated by choices we make throughout our journey. And so thinking of these crime shows, people get themselves into these, they paint themselves into some kind of corner of life. They get desperate, they, whatever, and they resort to diabolical, things like murder and trying to get away with it, or they, it's just awful. So maybe they get themselves into financial issues, like I said, or they get themselves into relationship issues, whatever the case may be, and they continue down that rabbit hole that leads them to doing something that leads to taking an innocent person's life. Can't understand, I'll never understand it, but this seems to be kind of a running theme a lot of the times. And the fact that it happens as frequently as it does, it's scary, quite frankly. But I also see, in social media, I see friends of mine, people I know throughout my life who are, fully laden adults, right? And who are constantly lamenting, constantly posting, constantly complaining about situations in their life, that, maybe they're complaining about. First they find a relationship. Oh, this is wonderful, this person's so wonderful, and within weeks, maybe a month, maybe a little bit more, they are complaining about, somebody. You let somebody in your life, and then they don't treat you with respect, or they're only about themselves, or and you can tell they're clearly speaking about this person that weeks earlier they were saying that the sun, rose and set in their presence because of them, whatever. And, and then they get out of that relationship, and some time goes by, and the next thing you know, oh, I met somebody and they're so wonderful. Oh my gosh, they think I'm this, and they are that. And, we like the same things, and we finish each other's, sentences, and we, whatever. And then within weeks, the cycle continues, and, that relationship didn't work out. And then they feel so betrayed. They feel like, they can't trust anybody, blah, blah, blah. And I can't help it. I had to bite my tongue more often than you would believe, because it's not my place. And if it were my place, I would seize that opportunity. But, I don't know. The thing is in so many of these cases, people just make bad decisions. They let people in their lives who are complicated. They don't use wisdom. They don't use discernment. They don't look for the flags in people. We all talk about the red flags, and we ignore those because we just want to be in love, or we just want to have this fancy thing, or this financial opportunity sounds so great. Oh my gosh, I was told I was going to get this much return on investment, and so I put all my money into it, and you'd never guess, but it blew up in their face, because the person was crooked. Whatever the case may be, a lot of the difficulties in our lives are pretty much self-inflicted if we're really honest with ourselves. And like I call it, when you talk about relationships, I call it a person has a bad picker. They choose poorly, and they do it time and time again and blame everybody else. It's always, oh, why are people so horrible? And it's like, well, people are who they are, but you have a bad picker. You're not exercising any kind of wisdom. Your criteria for who you let into your life is superficial at best. You're not doing any kind of, you're not praying about it. You're not getting to know the person inside and out. That's, when I was getting to know Sarah, who is now my wife, but, way back in the beginning, we had no choice because of distance, but to really, really communicate. We communicated for hundreds of hours before we even met in person. And we investigated each other's online presence. And at the time, on Facebook, you can put whatever you want and sanitize it all you want. But I also had a blog at the time that I was posting in for years that, if you've been watching the podcast for any length of time, I get pretty personal. I open up and I share my mind. I share my heart. And as I've said, I don't script these things out. This is just me brain dumping or soul dumping, on video. So, when I was blogging and I had my blog, that I did pretty much the same thing. And so my wife, I send her the link, and she can go through and read my posts and determine for herself, is this somebody, are we like-minded? Do I like the way he thinks? Do I think he's a nut? She had every opportunity to kind of get to know me without me doing the PR spiel. It's like, well, here's stuff I've been writing for years, whatever. So, all this is to say is like, we complicate our lives, and I just want a simple life. I don't need to find some loophole financially or whatever so I can get more and more money, because there's never going to be enough. I don't need to, let's talk about relationships. It's like, I love my wife with all my heart. Why would I engage in anything that would put that at risk and try to get away with it? Why would I try to live some sort of double life, and think I can balance all this and keep these worlds separate, that they'll never collide. And if they do, my life is completely destroyed. It's just going to be an ash heap. Everybody who knows me would, you know, just be, I don't know, rightfully disappointed and maybe detach themselves from me, losing my family. What is the benefit of this? So, but people do this all the time, and I don't understand it. I never will, and it's just not worth it. And I think there are just so many different aspects in life where people try to, whether it's they think they're smarter than everybody else, or the risks are greater than, or I should say, the rewards are greater than the risks. Whatever the case is, they think they can manage it all, or they think it's worth it all, or they think there'll be no consequences, or everything's a sure thing. And people, it's just, it's sad, and it can lead to incredible heartache and tragedy and all this other stuff. And so my thing, my bottom line to this entire episode, or this entire train of thought, is, I want the simple life. And that doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean that I expect everything to be simple, but I'm certainly not going to contribute to the natural complexity and difficulties in life by making poor decisions, by trying to force things into my life, into, my path, that ultimately are just too stressful and too chaotic, too risky to handle, or to expect to go well. And just trust God and ask God, I want your wisdom. I want your guidance on this. Is this thing that I want what you want for me? And he'll tell me, no, it's not. And I will lose the desire for it. And that's been a pattern throughout my life, is that I will gain desires for things I never thought I wanted, and I will lose desires for things that I used to crave when I was younger, when I was dumber, or whatever the case is. And God's been faithful to do that with me as I just continue to pursue him and say, God, I want the simple life, and that is, I want to pursue you. I want to get closer to you. I want to know you better. I want to represent you better. And just lead me, guide me, take away the desire and the taste for things that you don't want for my life. Just remove it. I don't want anything to do with it. I want to be miles and miles and miles away from anything that could trip me up or harm my family, or harm my my witness for you as a representative, as an ambassador of Christ. I don't want to do anything that would stain that in any way. And so I just encourage you, wherever you are in life, and maybe you're one of those folks who's like, man, I just want a good, solid relationship. And maybe I've had people say they've observed, my relationship with Sarah over the years, and say, I just want what you have. It's like, I wanted what I have for the longest time, for decades. And I, made a lot of mistakes, and was one of those people who had a bad picker for a period of time. You thought you were doing the right thing, and time would, reveal as you went that no, it was the wrong thing. Or I was willing to overlook certain things in order to, justify, well, nobody's perfect. But all along you see that, no, this is not built to survive. This is not sustainable. But you ignore things. You ignore those flags, so to speak. So I hope that you're understanding where I'm coming with this. It's just like, keep life simple, because it's going to have, just because it's life, there's going to be complications. There's going to be difficulties. But if you are standing on the rock of our salvation, that's God, our relationship with God. First of all, you're never going to be alone. He knows every detail of your life. Talked about it in the last episode, how there are things that he may have for you that is down the road, years, maybe just weeks. I don't know. But for whatever reason, it's in the future, and you may not see it. You probably don't see it. You can't see it. But God is saying, just stay close to me, and when the time is right, believe me, I've got this bag of blessings. Things that you thought you wanted aren't in it. Things that you didn't know you wanted or needed are loaded with it. So, for instance, my wife, I decided long ago that I wasn't going to create a list of qualities I needed to have in the right woman. I just said, God, I just want what you want for me. And I want to recognize her when I meet her. And whatever her qualities are, I trust that they're qualities that are not only ones that I want and desire, but qualities that I need. And she has been every bit of that and more in my life. And I'm so grateful that God designed this the way he did. And his timing wasn't my timing, but the fact that it happened at all, I'm grateful. And I'm living that dream, and it's answer to prayers and everything else. And I look back and I say, man, I wish this had happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But the fact that it happened at all is wonderful. And maybe I could have done things earlier in life that would have sped the process up. Maybe I made too many mistakes. That's entirely possible, and probable for that matter. But the fact of the matter is I did simplify my life and just say, God, I just simply want what you want. Make me who you want me to be, and make me give me the qualities that somebody else is going to want in their life, somebody that you have for me, that you've set aside for me. And maybe we would have met a lot sooner in life if I had gotten my act together earlier, But the bottom line is I just want to make good choices. I want to make decisions today that align me with where you want me to be 5, 10 years down the line, if that's his plan. Whatever it is. So simplify your life. Get rid of the things that and look at the pattern. Look at the path your life has taken. If you see one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, instead of blaming everybody else, is maybe look in the mirror and say, do I have a bad picker? Am I making bad decisions? And be real, be honest with yourself, and say, okay, I'm gonna do better. I'm just gonna put that desire aside for a while, maybe forever, as long as it takes. I'm going to put that somewhere else, and I'm going to work on me and say, God, it's you and me. Let's put up the scaffolding and let's, refurbish this from the inside out and prepare me for what you have in store for me in the future. Simple. It's difficult. It's easier said than done, but it is simple. And, it doesn't have to be some deep theological thing. As I'm saying this, you probably know the things in your life, or the people, the relationships in your life that are dragging you down, that are not good for you, that are not healthy, that are toxic. And you need to let go of those things. You need to jettison those things away and simplify your life and get down to basics and say, God, okay, here I am. Strip away all that stuff and let's get started. And that's my encouragement for you today. So thank you again for joining me. Be encouraged. Be an encourager. I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Take care.
Thank you for joining the Coach Barnabas podcast. We'd greatly appreciate your support by liking and subscribing to the podcast and setting up notifications so we can let you know when new episodes are available. We'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment. Make a difference today.